Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dailey Blend show. If you are new around here, this is the weekly rundown segment where we showcase what is going on at Dailey Blend across our various platforms, projects that I'm working on, and what is going on in the world of technology, media, and pop culture. But before we jump into the show, I want to remind you that this show is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google. We also replay it on YouTube. You can like, follow, subscribe to Dailey Blend on X and Instagram. And with all that out of the way, let's jump into the show. So for Music Mondays, we had a very fantastic, electrifying, I would argue, post with Boombox Music. They're one of my favorite jam bands that can, and I say it as in they're a smaller jam band. There's only two guys in it. They do a nice job of fusing reggae and rock, pop. Maybe you could even argue a little bit of hip hop. But the new album is called Dangerous Waters. I've been jamming into it for the last couple days. I did the pre-release order on the vinyl and can't wait to get that in hands. My guess is that's going to take a couple months. But, I've seen Boombox play a handful of times. I'm hoping to check them out here on the 17th in Chicago. But in the event I'm not going to be able to, well, I got the album streaming on Spotify, and I will have it on vinyl soon. Going to Throwback Thursdays, we are continuing with the trend of featuring Gabriel and Dresden all month long. The last mix we put up was their Essential Mix from 2006, which has a really nice combo of sort of their signature sound, classic songs that I've grown up with the duo and really love. And it was really fantastic to just hear them do the Essential Mix for almost 20 years ago. In terms of other mixes, still working on Dailey Blend, episode 150, sort of delaying that, just to be frank, trying to figure out kind of the track list and what I want to do. But in the meantime, in terms of my personal projects, I released Pause and Just Listen volume number 2. And so that is out on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. It's not available on Spotify due to streaming licensing laws. But you can check that out, and I will eventually get that up on the Reed Dailey Music YouTube channel and link to that probably next week. But it's up and running on SoundCloud. That's soundcloud.com/Reed Dailey, as well as Apple Podcast through the Dailey Blend podcast. So if you've noticed, while I'm working on episode number 150, I keep on adding other sort of projects in between. All right, going over to Drinks with Greg / Negronis and Greg. We've been sort of updating our branding toolkit and looking at what that's going to look like, feel like. But we do have the web store open, and we're starting to see orders come in, which is fantastic. So the content to the store mapping seems to be working. This week for the drink of the week, we are featuring the Rye Maple Syrup Woodford Reserve Manhattan. It's starting to get cold here in Chicago. I'm a big fan of Manhattans, and I love Woodford. So I went and got the Rye. I've been really fired up with how this tastes. The one thing I'm asking, do not use cheap cherries. You have to use the really good cherries. But head over to drinkwithgreg.com to have a look. Don't forget to follow Drink with Greg on Instagram and X. And we've got new podcast episodes launching later this week, early next week. In terms of a recap of the Friday Top 5, once again, that's moving into a newsletter. So go and make sure you subscribe to that. But, we're talking about Buffalo Trace. If you can't tell, there's a lot of whiskey flowing, and just why I love Buffalo Trace. Then we're talking about sort of Wilson, the Chicago-based brand that I'm quickly turning into one of my favorite brands. And they're doing the drip concept and talking about kind of all the stuff they're doing across the courts and then off courts. And then we're doing the rise of essentially Spotify on Netflix, and then doing a YouTube feature on vinyl versus digital, thanks to the team from Residence Advisor. So once again, the newsletter is now available. We're no longer doing posts, so make sure you subscribe to that. And then continuing down on the social media trends, I wanted to highlight again that we've got the first wave of the social media calendar template. It's available on daileyblend.com by clicking part of the show note posts. So if you're interested in building a, sort of what I'll call essential social media calendar for a week, go check that out. We'll be putting out the core and the advanced before the end of the year, and then we'll be packaging all of that up into a single toolkit that you can download all the components. In terms of the show, this is a shorter episode. I got to jump on a train, but don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to the show, and I will catch you next week on the Weekly Rundown. Thanks for tuning in.